All right, if you're here, you're a real one. Thanks for sticking with us as we encounter technical difficulties here at the start of the show.
45 minutes late.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. They said they would fix it. Nothing like a good Han Solo reference to start us off here. Restream, our tool, would not let us go live, despite our best efforts. So there may be like some extra posts hanging around. That's why I say if you're here, you're a real one. Thank you. We're here now. We're live now. Look at us go. We did it.
Best. So, anyway, how are you this evening? Oh, afternoon for you, isn't it?
It is afternoon for me. Would you like the long version or the short version of how my week has gone?
Well, we've got 25 minutes before we start recording, so
you get the long version. Okay, I'm going to set the scene for you. Okay, a couple months back, I'm meeting with my prescriber for my medication, and she goes, "Hey, I think we're doing great with this. Let's go ahead and change it to a 90-day supply instead of a 30-day supply." That context is important because usually I get notifications that my 30-day supply is going to run out and that I need to replenish it. Because it's a new prescription, that did not happen. And so I ran out of a very important medication last Thursday. This medication helps me function as a human. It's my ADHD medicine. And well, what happened is because I stopped taking it on Thursday, not the next day, but the day after, which was Valentine's Day. Of course, it happened on Valentine's Day. I usually get hit with the most intense migraines of my life. I often joke about it, that scale that is not very good at actually measuring pain, 0 to 10, with the happy face and the sad faces. Yes, I see you're frozen too, Barry.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, right. I'll switch my camera off and do it back on again. But yes, please, carry.
Yeah. So anyway, I had So I had on Valentine's Day, what happens is I get these really intense migraines, body temperature fluctuations, vomiting. It is just the worst withdrawal symptoms I have personally ever experienced. And so basically what happened is that happened. And then I think somehow my immune system got weakened while that was happening. And then now I'm sick. I've got some sort of cold, and I'm doing everything in my power to not make it sound that way here on stream tonight.
Well,
in fact, I'm quite hydrated.
So hopefully, if you can keep that going, then that's good.
We shall see.
So for some reason, my cam is not in the game.
You are the NVIDIA logo for me.
Yeah. And I might have to try something drastic, like
unplug Look at all these technical difficulties we're having tonight. Thank you again for joining us early. This is why we do a pre-show. This is why we don't just go live and do the show. So I appreciate y'all hanging out here. If you noticed, the title of tonight's episode is fairly vague. The reason for that is, well, I mentioned that I'm sick this week, and so my body is taking a little bit more time to recharge and to rest. And that's basically my way of saying that we didn't have a news story until the last minute, and that's after I had already set up the Restream event and all that stuff. So what are we actually talking about tonight? I'm stalling here as Barry tries to get his camera working.
I honestly don't know why this is playing the game, but the idea behind, I guess, the negative side of AI, but in a more, in maybe some ways that people aren't truly realizing, which is going to be quite interesting.
It will be interesting. I tend to think about, so everyone who's watched the show for any length of, hey, welcome back. Glad to have you. Wow.
I know. Sorry. I
look at your frame rate. Your frame rate is off the charts. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm not going through. So that is plain Elgato Facecam. There must be something wrong with NVIDIA.
Maybe.
Have I pushed it too hard today? Anyway, I'm not going to mess around with it. We've got some stuff. It means my usual trick of how I look down the camera isn't going to work.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
I do look very sharp.
Yeah, you
I'm
do.
impressed with that.
Shoot, hang on. Maybe I have to switch to my. Hang on here. I'm going to switch to mine. What does mine look like? Oh, yeah, mine looks
Worse.
It's very smooth, but not quite. There's a little bit of sharpness to it. Quite. Yeah, we'll take that sharpness down. Oh, someone wants to be a live caller. Hey, yeah, if you'd like to be a live caller, there's a QR code right here.
That's cool.
Once you get in chat, let us know what you'd like to talk about, and we will bring you on. Barry looks great. Nick doesn't. All right.
Okay, well,
look at that. There we go.
I don't know. Is that a reference to the broadcast quality or just in general? But and I'm here all night.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let's talk about just broadly what the topic is tonight. Oh wait, you know what? Hold on. It's actually occurred to me that I wonder if I have the right link on here. RV. Oh, I did. Okay, great. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tend to think about our stories tonight as like as anyone who's watched the show for a long period of time knows that I'm kind of like, God, another AI story. Really, we have to talk about it because we're human factors. Yeah, there's a lot of it going on right now. It feels like that's all that the field is talking about. I would like to get us some more variety in topics, which is great, which is why This Week in Aviation is back. But our main stories tonight are going to be about the like you said, sort of the side effects of AI, like what's going on. There's a scientist who predicted AI psychosis. There's a new forecast of what's going to happen next, and we're going to be kind of exploring that. And then also kind of the psychological effects of being or at least this talk about being replaced by AI. There's some serious side effects to what's going on when we speak about AI in that matter. So it'll be a fun show. Hopefully that we're talking about we're talking about the effects of AI and not AI itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is some interesting bits as we'll get into, because it's when I first looked at this, I was like, well, is this just a increment of technology and therefore it is what it is? But actually, I think there is a lot more into it because of AI and the way people are using it. People's anticipations of how AI is supposed to be, or what AI can do without people recognizing. So anyway, yeah, no, I'm quite looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this will be a stress test for us, I think, in a lot of ways. It's already has been tonight because of our technical issues.
Yes, being very smoke. Oh, Nick can't get the tech to work. Nick can't. Yeah, that's great. Look, I'm awesome. And then just going, then my camera goes down, and yay!
Hooray!
That's how much we take it for granted, right? Because we're doing this transatlantic conversations in near real time. And then we worry that the camera isn't working. You consider what we're doing, quite phenomenal.
That's true.
So, to business, I've written the blurb as a wanna. So to introduce both stories at the same time, because they're sort of.
Oh, okay.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine. We can talk about them in tandem. I don't care. I think before our three stories made sense to talk one after the other, but this one seems okay. I might make some specific points about one story or another.
I'll probably do the same. But we could split. We could split it. I mean, it's because they are separate. We don't want to lose it on one or the other. So it just takes a very small edit to change it.
Okay, yeah, make the small edit. We'll talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about them. Not side by side, serially. Yeah, there we go. Words. Oh, hey, I'm still not medicated, by the way. So you're getting an unmedicated episode this week.
Hold on.
No. I don't know. It's funny because it's not funny, but it's interesting because I started the show 2016, was unmedicated then. And I wonder if there's like a quality difference in the show. Like just I don't know. I can't even imagine how we'd measure this, but if there's a quality difference in the show when the host is medicated versus unmedicated.
I was just saying, it's there's almost a thing there, is there? If somebody's really keen, because you've got all of that video evidence there. If somebody's to watch all the episodes and almost do a reflective analysis on all of them, and then without you telling them when medication started, though I think we do mention it in the shows, don't we?
I think so. Yeah.
But see if they could do the analysis and objectively, I guess, review the qualities of the show. I wouldn't say quality because I think it's always top quality, but the qualities of the show and how it's maybe changed with it. It'd just be interesting if you could do that.
You could do a sample. You could do like 3 or 4 episodes from each year, and then.
I think we'd need to watch every single one of them.
Every single one. Okay.
I mean, if a job's worth doing, I mean, it's only 313 episodes, so 2 hours an episode.
You say 315, but we've aired much more because of all the bonus coverage and stuff.
True. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much stuff we've done over the last 10 years or so.
So say say a good, or say 400. So that's a good 800 hours at least worth of content. At least. Declan Finn said on LinkedIn, there's a difference in the show quality when the audience is medicated.
I love that. It's great.
We've always said that we should do an episode sometime, maybe an after hours episode where we have, like, I don't know, a couple of glasses of wine or pick a favorite beverage as we're discussing a topical news event, and just to see the differences in the coverage.
Oh, of course, for science, right? It's for science.
Yeah, it's for science.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so let's see here. This is a story that I saw, by the way, in the research for this episode. That is not something that we will talk tonight about, but maybe I'll bring it up here in the pre-show. Hang on, I'm gonna put this acronym in here, because I keep thinking it's something else. Here, maybe I'll put it under my notes or something. I don't want you to accidentally read that.
Yes.
AI replacement dysfunction. No, I saw a new thing that's going around the internet, that is sort of like a on Reddit where you see these posts that are very lengthy, and then they summarize at the bottom TLDR. And then they kind of So the other story that I saw is now people are tagging it with AIDR. AI didn't read.
I mean, like that's good.
I don't know about you, but I've seen this like monumental shift towards anti-AI sentiment.
It is. It is interesting, isn't it? We sort of spoke about it before, where people are, and the younger generations in particular, are rejecting um, the AI that's been thrown into, particularly social media, and things like that. So if you've got social media posts that you know are being AI, it's not so much the AI pictures, because I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, that's clearly an AI picture," but where you got the AI generated text, because you can
Yeah.
still easily see when a news feed has been, or relatively easy see when a news feed has been AI generated, and they're just saying, "No, we don't want that." Um, so
Yeah, I mean the sentiment that was with that other story, AIDR, um, the sentiment was if you're not going to bother to write something, why should I bother to read it? And
yeah,
I think that's an interesting take, because for us, we've talked about this before, where sometimes we use AI for like a template for something, and then we'll sort of adjust that template, or use it to rewrite something, or make it sound better. And I think as a tool, that is perfectly acceptable. And I think um, there's sort of this all or nothing approach with a lot of people that tend to think about AI as like a don't touch it at all. But I think it can be used as a tool. I think there's a lot of questions about the ethics of AI right now and where they get their data and how they're sourcing their data sets, and how they're being applied. But I mean, it's like from my perspective, it's here. It's
yeah,
not going to leave. Not with all this investment in the space. And so you can either adapt and adopt AI as a tool and use it sort of as we're describing as a helper to your message, right? Um if I were to write a social media post, I would prompt AI for like a starter, but the output would not be a direct copy and paste. I would take that thing and go, okay, I like this, don't like that. Let's say this a different way. Is to give me ideas about how to convey my thoughts, which
yeah.
I struggle with sometimes. So I'm not like in a huge defense of AI mode, but it's like you need to understand it as a tool and use it as a tool because it's here and it's not going away. Okay, soapbox. I will get off of it now.
Yes, and I'm fairly, we'll get into this in the main chunk of it as well, because it's about evolution and revolution, um, about how we do things. And yeah, it is interesting though, because I've had this discussion a couple of times this week already, around some people who just, as soon as they see or hear the word AI, then it's eye roll and no, we shouldn't be using it, it's silly. But then if you're not the one, well, from particularly us as HF practitioners, we need, human machine teaming and all of that is very much the forefront of what we're doing. And that is going to be, it's the biggest challenge we face, bar none, um, in the next through the next 5 to 10 years.
And I'll
And
guarantee
so,
you this. I'll guarantee you this. If you're not working on it, somebody else is.
and that's kind of it, is you can hold, almost be almost holier than now, step back and say, I shall not use these things. Well, somebody else is, and they're being quick because they're using it. They're quicker and faster than you, so they're going to get there. So, but for me, the issue is around quality. And I don't think that there is. I don't think there's any tool where you can turn around, any AI tool at the moment where you can turn around and say, right, AI can replace us as HR practitioners, as researchers, as things. Um, and it's the people who do let ChatGPT write an essay for you, um, and then you just hand that in, or you just publish that as a thing. Um, that is for me wrong, in my own ethical viewpoint. As you say, use it as a tool, use it as the um, use it to help you structure what you're doing, develop what you're doing. Um, but it isn't the be all and end all. Um, but I'm fairly sure we get on this soapbox pretty much every time we do this. But
Well,
it's true.
yeah. Oh, hey, we have a guest.
Cool. We like guests.
We love guests. I'm not even going to screen this guest. So I hope
Oh,
this guest is ready because I'm going to put you on. All right, here you go. Let's see. Neil, welcome back to the
Neil.
show.
That was your mistake for not screening me.
Uh-oh. What you got for us tonight, Neil? What's going on?
So, interesting topic. Actually, been having a lot of discussions about this with my oldest, who is 18 right now and preparing to go off to university here in the fall. And she's sharp, but she also sees how a lot of her friends are using AI. And for instance, she had a coding class where she was trying to get her program to do something and it just wasn't quite working. And she basically narrowed down to like, okay, it's this, but I don't know how to make it do this. I said, okay. So based on the way your professor has talked about the assignment, you just have to call it out the appropriate way. But that's a very specific question that you could ask, and that would be appropriate to ask. I said, and then of course you put that in, you test it to see if that works, the software. And if it does, cool. If not, okay, great. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But that's where it's like, okay, yes, you can check it. You can see what it produces, but you don't just toss it in blindly. And,
it is interesting
happens.
seeing where the world of coding is going, because coding is my background. That was my first degree, only degree, was in command and control software, and this was at the time where strongly typed languages were still a thing. We were just getting into object oriented and things like that. So it was the usual thing that you could have a semicolon just out of place, or a space where you weren't expecting it. You couldn't see it because of what it was. But that's where I'm now really interested in this whole vibe coding culture, which initially I was very much of the no, you can't do that. That's silly. You've got software engineers for a reason. But actually, I'm slowly coming round to, and this was predicated from a friend of mine who runs his own software company, and he had a number of software engineers who worked for him. And then they worked out that actually using AI tools to support what they're doing, not necessarily the vibe coding piece as such, but using AI to help with the syntax, help with the nuts and bolts of what they're doing, they could focus then on getting the result that they wanted. So they knew the design intent, for a better expression, that they could do that. They could focus on the design of what they wanted and not having to worry about the simple syntax errors that can normally trip you up for days when you're debugging stuff. So there's I think, and again, when I've got back into it using some of the vibe coding tools and other bits and bobs, I don't have that. I haven't been able to keep pace with the way programming languages have changed and evolved over the past 15, 20 years since I was heavy into it. But because I've got a software background, I know enough to be able to go and dive into the code, understand what I'm seeing, and be able to make suitable changes. So I do think there is that. As a coder, you learning the basics is still absolutely key. But then how do you best use the tools to make you efficient in what you're doing? And I don't believe anybody's got that balance right. And just as when I think you're getting it right, the world will move again, because this AI domain is moving so rapidly, so quickly, that just when you think you're getting your finger on it, somebody's done something new or cool, or completely stupid, well, whichever way it's going. So yeah, interesting times.
Somebody will do something new, it appears cool, but yes, then the stupidity of it starts to kind of seep up.
Now,
Absolutely.
Neil, you brought up you brought up the attitudes around AI, around your daughter's peers. What are those
Mhm.
attitudes right now, like just from that age group? Because I can kind of speak to it from, I mean, we all have offspring of different ages,
Mhm.
so I feel like we can kind of speak to it from different levels of experience. But I'm wondering, what are you hearing?
So there's my observations of kind of uh, kind of that cohort age group and looking at it at kind of what their performance level is like, kind of academically, etc. And it's this kind of inverse shape function. The higher a performer level they are, the less attracted they are to heavy AI usage. I mean, they will get familiar with it because they feel like they need to be, but in terms of just full utilization and hooking their grade to it, not at all. But
Which is good.
kind of the more a student kind of goes towards the other end of that continuum, it seems like they like to utilize it more and more and more. And that's actually the end where it's like you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I mean, there is an argument you could say that they're using a tool to their advantage, but that's not what you're in education for. You know,
Right. I mean,
you're in it,
education is the time to learn.
yeah, to learn how to do the piece, and then when you're in consultancy like us, then you use all the tools to make your life
Exactly.
easier.
So Barry, you have college aged children. What are their thoughts and opinions on AI?
I have college age and young adult, as in 20, 21-year-old, as well. It's interesting that they don't believe you should be using it that much. In fact, I was encouraging them to use it in some ways to help them develop some of their stuff. So I've got a English literature student, one daughter, and to help them do some of that, and they were very against it. And I'm still quite pleased that they are reticent to use it, see that it's got value, but actually like to do their thing. So I think the level that they're at is that's it, appropriate. But it's interesting then seeing their attitudes, what they see on social media about what is AI generated, what is real, and how they've got an even sharper, I think, nose for, or sharper sight, shall we say, for seeing stuff that is AI generated, and therefore how much they believe it, and probably even more so than we have.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I have a 6-year-old right now, and he's kind of grown up in the era of the AI boom. Um, and it's fascinating because like we'll watch videos, short videos or whatever, or he'll see something on the TV. And right now, a lot of my efforts with him have been towards AI literacy and understanding what is and is not AI, and sort of training him early to understand what the tells are. And it's crazy to start doing it that way because the tells are changing every day, right? You have now Seed Dance 2.0 that's taking celebrities likeness and putting it into its own videos, and those look realistic. And you have to be really paying attention to some of the finer details to understand what about this generated AI generated content is not real. I saw another one from somebody who mimicked an American football game. Um, and as somebody who's an outsider to the sport, I couldn't tell you anything that was wrong with it. But somebody else was pointing out that the model itself was making moves that each individual position would actually make, and the only one of the only tells was that in the end zone it said something racism, right? Where normally in the end zone it says end racism or something to that effect, but it was another word before racism, and then they thought that was odd, and so then they could deem it was
Yeah.
AI generated. And so it's so difficult to teach a young child about that right now because it's always evolving. So I don't have the like take on how peers and their parents are using it, but it's fascinating to see it from these different perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, given that the example you just gave, then Rams could have been in the Super Bowl final this year and won, but he wasn't to be this year. Not that I'm bitter.
Not that you're bitter. Well, Neil, do you have a take on tonight's stories? I know we haven't posted them, but we're looking at the effects of basically saying that AI is going to replace your jobs and what effect that has on people. And then this thing called AI debt, which is essentially kind of cognitive debt that is going to erode our mental skill and resilience over time. Do you have any takes on those before we get the show started?
Oh, absolutely. I made a pivot about a year and a half ago away from more defense-focused work and into doing accident investigation, and particularly around surface transportation and expert witness work. And there are some tools over here in this area that folks utilize to help them summarize some of the data. In fact, there's one specifically for human factors work. And you have these people that are not human factors practitioners that are using this tool and to pull out things like perception reaction times. And it's very garbage in, garbage out. Yeah. And these folks using it, they have no idea what they're really dealing with, and the fact that, and they will go and they'll testify in court like, oh yes, this is, my conclusions here are based on thousands of studies. And it's like, okay, cool. So when you actually look at your data output here, it's actually saying that based on your criteria, this is all based on one study. And that one study was a simulator study where basically they rolled Donkey Kong style barrels out to surprise people. And you're saying that that's applicable here to a child on a bicycle that rolled out in front of a tractor trailer?
So, I mean, to be fair, like strong ecological validity. I can't remember the last time I went outside and didn't get a barrel thrown at me.
Hey, bud. Hey, here, go on in. Can you shut the door? Yes, that's my youngest one.
Oh,
Nope. Go on up. Shut the door. Thank you, bud.
Well, thank you, Neil, for dropping in.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the show started here. So feel free to keep listening along, and we'll look for contributions in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen.
Cool. Great to see you.
All right.
Likewise.
Thanks to Neil for joining us. Oh, sorry. I played you off like the Oscars. Did you want to say something else?
I was just going to say, and just remember, it depends.
Hey, there we go. Perfect segue. All right. Thank you, Neil. All right. We're going to go ahead and get the show started here in just a minute. We'll do it in the first take because I can't quite figure out what notes I want to write down, even though I've had an entire pre-show to do so. Barry, are you ready to get this thing started?
Yeah, of course. Always.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, that doesn't scream confidence. I don't know what does. Hang out for just a second, and we will be back with the episode right after this.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Human Factors Cast. This is episode 315. We're recording this live on February 19th, 2026. I'm your host, Nick Rome, and I'm joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hi there, Nick. How are you doing?
Hey, I told you in the pre-show, Barry, not to ask me that because I'm not feeling too well today, but we're going to get through it. we got a great show for you lined up tonight. As reluctantly as last week, we have more AI stories, but they're not about AI this time. They're about the effects of AI. So it'll be an interesting take on it. But first, programming notes. For those of you who have been following along with us here at the show and the lab and their efforts, you know that we have a new series out called User Experience Points, where we look at the intersection of human factors in gaming. The latest episode is out now. It's all about Marvel Rivals, which is a popular character-based game, and looking at engagement optimized matchmaking. Have you ever heard of that term, Barry?
No, I haven't. It was first for me. So
Yeah. So go check it out on our short form platforms. That's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Go take a look at episode 2. It's out now. But Barry, I got to know what's going on over at 1202.
Well, 1202, February's episode is now up about an hour before this show's gone live. So I recorded a chat with Martin Thody. Now, those of you who follow us over at 1202 will recognize the name because he's been a friend of the show for a long time since the show started. But he's currently the president of the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors. And so because he was a long time friend of the show, he was more than happy to come on and give me his reflections and his thoughts about what it means to be president, and we were able to chat a bit from our own different own experiences and perspectives. We're also considering doing some almost round table type activities where we can try and have a bit of a wider discussion on the topics that we've spoken about in the main interviews. Almost a companion episode, if you will. So if anybody fancies being involved in any of them, then just get in touch. And once we work out how we're going to do them, because we wanted to do them almost live, properly around a table, but actually we'll get much better interaction, I think, if we use the online platform. So if you want to get involved, get in touch and we'll see what we do. And just a final reminder, if you're looking to use the website to access 1202, the website name has changed to 1202pod.com. So the address is 1202pod.com.
All right. Well, let's get into the thick of it, huh? Yes, that's right. This is the part of the show all about human factors news. Barry, we got 2 stories up. You want to take them one by one?
Yep. So tonight we're diving into 2 timely and some would suggest troubling developments of the intersection of artificial intelligence and psychological health. So first up, researchers are now talking about what they call AI replacement dysfunction, a set of stress, anxiety, insomnia, and identity loss symptoms emerging not from direct AI usage per se, but from the constant narrative that AI will make people obsolete at work. This looming fear of displacement, even ahead of actual automation, is shaping how people feel about their roles, their purpose, and their mental well-being. Nick, do you feel that constant narrative? Do you feel constantly anxious, stressed, and have insomnia around AI taking over your job?
Personally, no. I can give a concrete example of why. Just this week, I saw how a certain program translated something into something else that you would use as like a design tool, and the translation didn't do anything structural to the core to the core files, and so it was bad. But so I don't personally feel. I think human factors work is going to be very human centered for a very long time. I think we will work with AI as teammates. Blah 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 blah. Let's get back to the article at hand, though. Here, I feel that this sentiment is something that you see fairly common. I mean, you can see this in the comments of any of the new videos that are coming out generated by AI or pictures or something convincing. You see comments like "We're cooked," or I'm not gonna have a job, or back in my day we didn't have to worry about this type of thing. And so I think there is definitely the sentiment there publicly. I think there's the article itself pulls out um, clinical applications and sort of using this as a clinically treatable thing. I struggle with that only because of our privileged position, but sort of our position advocating for people to team with AI partners rather than having those AI partners completely erase the position. Will it happen outright? Yes, absolutely. Is the fear justified in some cases? Sure. But I think we as a society should look beyond that a little bit and think about what opportunities then arise when those positions um, are then taken over by AI in so many terms. Well, then you have like supervisory roles of those AI, and the role just changes. I mean, the same thing happened with calculators. The same thing happened with automobiles. Like you name it, we've adapted. And I firmly believe that we'll adapt again. And I think in a lot of ways this article is sensational. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when I first read the article, I was very much of the thing. Well, we've been here before. We've been here loads of times before. Every time we get some sort of industrial or technological revolution, they're going to be jobs are lost. Jobs are lost to technology, but then new jobs, as you just said, jobs are created. So life it isn't changing, it's going to move. And maybe we as humans, some people say we don't like change. Maybe that's it, but I don't think that's where this story is truly going. I think you're right, it is possibly a bit sensationalist. However, is this almost a real thing of AI bullying from management? So you could historically, I mean, I guess the way I thought about it was if in the factory assembly line, that you could see everything was by hand. Everybody, people were on the line putting that together, and then people said, "Oh, we're going to get these machines in to come and do your job." And now we've got factory lines that are pretty much autonomous. You've got robotics going and really doing things faster, longer, safer, and with greater precision. And then there's certain elements that only people can do, and they do them bits. And I was like, isn't that just this? Isn't that just this again? But I think you can see here that that you've got bosses there, you've got managers going, AI is going to take over your job. Why do we need you anymore? You're useless. AI is going to do it. And you sit there and go, well, okay, AI could take over my job, but actually, you don't know what my job is, and most people don't actually understand what AI is in its entirety and how it's used. Therefore, are you saying that you don't know what I do? And then when it all goes wrong, so you leave, or you become discontent, you go and find another job, and then they need to hire you back because they realize AI can't do the job. Um, so it all really it's just a mess. And so I think it is. I can see how people feel that discontent because of what they're doing, and I think there are. I did some research on this. I say I did. Amanda pointed out some examples because we were talking about it on the way back from an event today, and she highlighted actually probably the biggest one of this is Duolingo. So if you know, Duolingo is the language training app, has the cute little owl logo, and they fairly recently turned around and said, right, we are going to be an AI first company. So when they used to have lots of humans doing most of the roles in terms of translation, in terms of their social media and all that sort of stuff. It was really on point in their social media game. But the senior management at Duolingo turned around and said, "No, we're going to be an AI first company," and that had a double effect of the employees were really annoyed the fact that they were being pushed down this AI first approach. Um, so quite a lot of them left. But then the subscribers, when they heard about what was happening, the number of subscribers to Duolingo went through the floor, and the backlash on social media forced Duolingo to delete most of the content of its accounts. because of this approach that that AI would come first. So you can see how that affected both employees because they left, but also the end customer. The end customer felt awful about what had happened to them as well, and responded that, and basically the company suffered hugely as a result of that. So that's not to say that I don't think anybody was suggesting that the quality of the work was any less at that point, but they just didn't like the way it was done. So that was sort of one example. The other example I'll bring out was Klarna. So obviously the credit company, and they decided that they were going to replace a lot of contractors with AI, and so they didn't realize they thought they didn't need a lot of these people. Use AI to do a lot of that interface to do a lot of the investigative work and make a lot of that stuff happen. They then went through almost a revelation that they weren't being as successful, and they needed that human touch in what they were delivering. So they then rehired all the people that they got rid of to say, look, we need to bring you back because we recognize we need to have this this input. So I guess there's two examples of where employees didn't feel valued, didn't feel safe in what they were doing, so they acted with their feet and they left, and then they realized that it was a failed idea.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about this this change versus some of the other changes that we've mentioned, like cars or calculators or anything else that has changed the industry, is that those were those were sort of um, things that came out that were basically complete when they came out.
Mm.
So a calculator does calculations. Sure, it's big and bulky, but it does what it does. Car, same thing. There may not be as much of them, but as more are produced, then you have more access to it and more people are using it. But the thing here, I think that's different is that AI is here and the models are consistently changing. And what you'll find is that something that wasn't capable last week is suddenly capable this week of doing that thing.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned vibe coding. I'll bring that up in one more thing, but developers laughed at this a few years ago, and now it's a real strategy. I know there are some reports out there of like big, well-known teams at big, well-known companies not having coded a single thing since like December, and they're basically just interacting with an AI to get the code in a place where it needs to be, and they're doing reviews of the AI's work, and that's what they're doing now. And so that's out there. And I bring that up to say that this rolling deployment of AI models and capabilities is probably contributing to this anxiety because you never know when that shoe is going to drop. When is it going to be capable of doing my job? When is it going to be capable of doing that thing that will essentially, quote unquote, replace me? And so I think that's probably one of the larger differences here that we see with this innovation versus innovations in the past, is that this is forever evolving or will be forever evolving. And so there's this uncertainty that this anticipatory stress and anxiety that's coming, because I might lose my job soon, but I don't know when it's going to happen. And how do you prepare for that? It's like there's really the best thing that you can do is understand what the models are capable of. But I mean, that's a lot of overhead to ask somebody who's not in the field to, sort of learn overnight. I don't know. I find that this one in particular, that they're, especially if we lean towards more of like a clinical diagnosis of this thing, I think that's where we get ourselves into a little trouble. And I don't want to downplay anyone's stress or anxiety. I want to downplay tying it to this innovation particularly, because this is what I would consider workplace stress. If your employer is not providing an environment that makes you feel safe and secure for, you, your family, all that stuff, I think that is a related of that's more related to work related anxiety than AI related anxiety, because I think now companies need to be a little bit more resilient as they approach, um think about human first companies, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
have to be a little bit more resilient in how they treat the integration of AI tools, so that way, the people that are working for those companies are going to be assured that they are taken care of, and that they will integrate these tools, respectfully, and in a way that is efficient and not going to, damage any sort of, work satisfaction. So I have a lot of thoughts on this one. Um, I tend to think that the clinical approach, we can't just tie it to AI,
Yeah.
because yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think the anxiety, as you quite rightly point out, the anxiety over such a quickly changing technology. I mean, we're in this element now that it is advancing so rapidly that just when you think you can put a finger on it, it's advanced and it's moved. I mean, ChatGPT is probably the most famous AI instantiation that everybody talks about. Yes, it's an LLM, but let's go with it. When we started using it, just what, a couple of years ago, I got into it in version 3. It's now what, 5.2, and the change in the way it works now, it is so much more capable than it was then. So that, as it is constantly evolving. I guess there is, and so therefore I can sort of see in certain fields, and we mentioned in the pre-show around software engineering, um, this the use of LLMs and an AI in the software field is changing the field. Is changing what it means to be a software developer. But I think that's changing, not deleting, because as a software developer, you've still got to have somebody who is thinking about the overall picture about what it is you're trying to do, not and to be able to check and robustly test and develop the code. um Here I think we do get into a bigger discussion really about, are we working to live, or are we living to work? Because you could argue that, as a society, if AI is doing what we feel it should be doing, which is taking the weight off, it's allowing us to do what humans do best. We make decisions and things like that. Allow us to be more creative rather than being hard focused. Then is this anxiety just almost a displacement of what it means to be human, and therefore is there a fear of how we live our lives, we less focused on work. However, there is a reality here of most people need work to pay the bills. Work just doesn't magically so money doesn't come out of the air. So um whilst I've seen some of these arguments around, this will allow humans to be more creative and things like that, society, I don't feel is at a place that we can take AI taking over our jobs and it'll all be fine, because you need to pay the bills at the end of the week. And that's where I think a lot of this anxiety comes from, is people don't see them jobs to change into that they used to be there. So it's complex, but you're right, a lot of it is, it's it's probably, we blame it on AI, but it's workplace focus, job security as a whole.
Yeah. And think about this too. I mean, this issue is largely like white collar focused. You think
Mhm.
about, AI is not going to replace your plumber, your electrician, like, I tend to think about these as like first world problems in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
they are, right? I think that between the organization approach and the responsibility of them to make sure that their employees are taken care of, or that these things are implemented in a way that changes the workforce but not damages the workforce. um, and then who it actually affects. I think we have to kind of take a step back and understand that, yeah, it'll probably replace somebody taking your order at McDonald's, but it probably won't replace the fry cook in the back. I mean, probably, maybe,
Yeah.
but you know,
And a lot of people are using it as force multipliers, not replacements. So some people are using it, and certainly I know that we have been using it in a way that we were able to do things that we weren't able to do before, or we didn't have access to before. So it's not replacing a job because we just wouldn't have done it in the first place, if that makes sense. Um, so that's also an interesting way. But I guess you look at some of historically, I completely agree with you around the trades of plumbing, electrician, woodwork, joinery, that type of that stuff. There are other traditional roles that have been hugely impacted with technology and we possibly don't recognize or talk about. So take the farming industry. The farms used to have loads and loads of people working, working the ground, working the animals. That all that piece. A lot of that work has now been, the personnel on a farm has now shrank rapidly, or massively, because you've got GPS and automation within tractors to get a lot of that, make a lot of that machinery work, and just the use of machinery and automation has reduced the need for hands-on personnel, and I think that's probably quite a decent perspective or insight into how technology can evolve an entire industry.
yeah, I think as we sort of look at this story here, and I'm trying to think towards the future, and like what can we do to help with some of this anxiety. If any organizations are listening, I think one of the big things we talked about, the organizational responsibility to talk about it, r- talk about it from the perspective of, rather than half of you are going to lose your job in 18 months, to actually understanding what the AI tool that you're implementing will actually change, and how the people themselves will be supported rather than the other way around. How will the AI supported by be supported by the people, but rather how will the people be supported by the AI tool? And changing that narrative, I think will go a long way for making this type of discourse, or this type of anxiety, this type of stress associated with AI is going to take my job, to be a little bit less of a sensational stressor in the workplace. And I think obviously, I'm going to go ahead and plug human factors here, just in general as a field, because hi, human factors cast here. Like,
Who-
there's always going to be a place for human factors practitioners to step in here and design these jobs, with the humans being a key part of that human in the loop, right? And I think that is one thing that we have to remember. You can't just outright replace people. And so I think I'm coming from it, we're both probably going from it with a very privileged lens of saying, yeah, we know how this is going to turn out if you just flat out replace people with AI, and it's not going to be good. uh so it's easy for us to not get super wound around the axle for something like this. But I can see where, if not everybody is talking about it in the way that we do, um, then there could be some anxiety. So, yeah, I don't know. Any other closing thoughts from you, Barry, on this first story?
Yeah, I guess for some reason, for some people, that anxiety, I guess, becomes very real because the nature of the workforce, or the nature of business, the nature of certain capitalism, is there's a lot of people who are willing to try this. And the two examples I gave there were where companies had gone out, they tried it. So obviously they did have physical effects to staff, but it all comes sort of right in the end. So I do think there is legitimacy around the anxiety because people do try these things. But longer term, we are in the I think we are in the throes of the revolution, as it were. And things will come right at the end.
All right. Why don't we get into this next story here?
Yeah, so I guess to follow on from that topic, we're coming with some of the most visceral concerns around AI, which are around the technology's role in extreme psychological reactions. A scientist who's been studying AI effects on cognition warns that excessive reliance on chatbots, especially in creative or reasoning work, may be creating a kind of what they term a cognitive debt, eroding the mental skills and resilience over time. So, Nick, do you find that if you're using chatbots too much, are you refusing to think anymore, and you're just taking on what the chatbot gives you as gospel and running with it?
I don't know if that's necessarily what they're talking about here. I think to me, what my interpretation of this article was that so let me back up and kind of give some more context for this. This is by the same person who predicted AI psychosis, which, if you're unfamiliar, AI psychosis is basically um, it's, it's psychosis triggered by AI. You want a different definition? I don't know. Um, and this person predicted it a while ago, right? And I think what they're trying to predict now is that those who are in, as you say, these creative or reasoning roles, um, these scientists, intellectuals that are engaging using these AI tools, what's going to happen is that um, if you lean too hard on AI, you will start to feel like there's all this ideation that's happening that you can't follow through on. And so
Mm,
that's the way I'm interpreting it. Um and I feel like there's, at least for me, I've encountered this specific thing. I have lots and lots of ideas as a content creator in the human factor space. There's only so many that see the light of day. A lot of them I explore through, AI, chat GPT, whatever. I go in and I write like, hey, what would it take to do XYZ? Or, give me a couple ideas for this, that, the other thing. And the ideation is nice and helpful. But I think the thing that I often find is that I will come up with this really great concept or idea, and then I'll flesh it out a little bit, and I'll leave it half baked because, um, before, the thing that would stop me from doing it would be sort of the ability, the bandwidth issue. And then now what it is a bandwidth issue on a different piece. It's like now it's not necessarily that I can't do it. It's that I feel like I'm farther than I would have been if I just cut it off to begin with,
yeah.
saying I don't have the time to do that. Now I can at least explore things a little bit. And now that is this cognitive debt in my head. And I know that, um, when we're talking about this concept of cognitive offloading, we're doing more and more of that with these AI chatbots. And like, I have this idea, boom, I put it into chat GPT, and then boom, it's gone forever because I've offloaded it. If I remember it, I'll go back and search up that chat and it'll be there. And I've offloaded that to the AI. And I think this is sort of that concept of cognitive debt that they're talking about here, this accumulation of using these tools like AI to externalize the memory functions and and the reasoning functions behind some of these things that require a lot of intellectual thought, um, is this cognitive debt where now I've offloaded that reasoning, or talking through, and it's stuck in a chat somewhere, and then I don't have it written down anywhere else. And then if I want to retrieve it, I have to go and search for it, and I have to remember to retrieve it. So I tend to think of it less as like a crutch and more of like I've put my information into this thing to explore this concept or to do more thought on a thing, and then it's suddenly lost. And so this cognitive debt is the buildup of that lost stuff that you'll never work on again. At least that's my interpretation of it. I feel like there's probably a little bit more nuance in the article, but this is me speaking from experience and kind of the way that I'm seeing myself going. And sometimes I have to back up and be like, I'm never going to touch this chat again. Why am I even trying?
Yeah, it's interesting. I sort of took it more from a methodological toolkit perspective, in that what I felt they were getting at was a lot of people may be using this to and using online tools to get you to a place where if you don't necessarily have the scientific training to be able to do this, or have the years of research foundation to understand how good research comes together, that they were suggesting that we lose that, and you're just then leaning on ChatGPT, etc., to help do that. But I think they also negate their own argument in it, because the example that they lean on was the AI researchers who used AI, or you highlighted the potential for AI to assist in scientific discovery when they did prediction of 3D structures of known proteins. And but then they also then go and say, if they hadn't used this, they're still building on that lifetime of work, that lifetime of research. So yeah, I don't think the argument necessarily hangs together. But even if it did, the way we use technology changes and evolves. So, we used to, well, I say we, I certainly my parents and before then used to use logarithmic scales, or logarithmic tables, used to use slide rules and things like that before, like, sort of the calculators came along and spreadsheets and things. I have no idea how a slide rule is used. I very rarely use long division, long multiplication. I rarely do writing down of long form mathematics in any of its forms. I'm using a calculator, I'm using an Excel spreadsheet, I'm using them sort of tools. I don't, but I don't. So my cognitive debt there is I don't know how to use them older techniques, and I have no idea how to use them. So if I need to do that sort of thing, I have to rely on a calculator to do it. I have to rely on a spreadsheet to do it. I could go and find out if I wanted to, and that's a different thing. But I don't use it on a day-to-day basis. So is there just a point where we turn around and say, well, actually, because we can, or I don't think we can do it yet, but in the future we will be able to use AI-based models and tools to help us advance scientific research so much that actually does it matter as much that we don't necessarily don't remember the far-flung basics of how to do things because things have moved on. There is an argument around the difference between tools and methodology. And so if we're suggesting that methodologies could change, and how do we make sure the findings are robust and things like that, that's a skill we definitely need to keep. But how we use tools and chatbots and things like that, are we at risk of holding ourselves back?
Yeah, I find it interesting that they target intellectuals, and this goes back to something that Neil said in the pre-show, and sort of the inverse relationship of those who rely on AI.
Mm.
And so what Neil was saying is that those who maybe are more on the, and forgive me if I'm paraphrasing incorrectly here, but more on the intellectually inclined scale, tend to rely on AI output less than those on the other end of the spectrum. And it almost seems like, you need to flip that, where um where the ones who are intellectually inclined, taking a look at an output. I see, this is my problem, I think, with the claim here, is that they're claiming that this would be more for those who are in research based roles, um or the science based roles. And I disagree with that slightly. I think if you were to actually plot this on a graph, I'm the name is escaping me right now, but do you know the graph where there's the amount of knowledge that somebody knows in a field, and their confidence in how
Yeah.
capable they are, and then it kind of goes up sharply at the beginning. Sorry, I'll do it this way. It goes up sharply at the beginning, and then there you have that sort of trough of realization there. I feel like this type of thing would affect those who are at the peak of that first peak, who feel like they know enough to do the job, but they're dangerous in
Yes.
so many ways. I feel like this is who they're talking to, because I feel like people like you and I can look at an output and go, yeah, that's bullshit. We're not going to take that. Um, or we need to reprompt it to get to the certain output that we're looking for. But those type of people, I feel like, might actually fall into this automation bias trap,
Mm.
where you have just this bias of accepting what comes back, um and they have these outputs that are pretty and are um well spoken or whatever, but they're not deep, they're shallow, they're not in depth, and they're not giving you the thing that you actually need. And especially combine this with stuff like time pressure, I can imagine it's very, very real that somebody in that situation would go, "Yep, this is good enough." And when you have the people who are taking a look at the outputs and going, "That's not quite right," then I don't think you have that same issue. And so I think it kind of falls into these medium range, uh, familiarity with rigorous science that would fall into that trap. So I don't know how valid the claim is. We might see it pop up more and more. And again, if you're like looking at um if you're looking at AI psychosis, it affects a very specific target demographic. Um
Mm.
and I think this is likely the same thing that will happen here. It will be an effect that we look at, and we will see those that suffer from it, but I don't think this is going to be something that many will suffer from. I think it's a warning for those in that position, maybe. Um, and I don't know if all that is conveyed in this article. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I think the term you were looking for earlier was that graph is the Dunning-Kruger
Oh, thank
effect.
you. Yeah.
Um, yes. And again, that's interesting, isn't it? Because you talk about people within their domain. So you kind of got two people: the people who know and the people who bluff. People who just try and talk a good game, and you do wonder whether using AI as a tool empowers more the overconfident, the bluffing people, and gives maybe more weight to their argument or the work that they do. Because what I sort of believe is the more expert you get in your role, the more you realize you don't know what you're doing, and more the imposter syndrome um, sets in. So because you realize that you don't know everything, or you know vastly less than what you think you do. Um, so I think that's quite a thing. I do think that this is an evolution of the technology. As I sort of said earlier, I think there is an element here that it is a tool. We've got to get our heads around it. It's possibly the most powerful tool or set of tools that we've had in such a long time, since like the almost since the first industrial revolution. That things are changing so dramatically, but there's so many people who don't know what this actually means and what it is. I mean, I'm seeing discussions, I'm seeing requirements, or where people just turn around and say, AI is going to solve this for me. Right. Okay. But what type of AI? What type? Because there's many different things. Why do you think it's going to do that? How do you know you can trust the output? How do you know you're going to work alongside it? Um, and I think it's the people who, with the greatest respect, don't know what they're talking about. that will use this sort of stuff more without any without any guilt, without any fear, without any thought. The intellectual people that they're or the strong academic people that's been referenced in this article, they do recognize what they're doing because they are AI researchers, and so they are. And the fact that this is being talked about in this way, they clearly are thinking about how they are using it, the limitations of it, and what it does. But as a society, I think we've got potentially bigger problems of not necessarily replacing as they do. I'll quote out of this here. They talk about how AI can replace the mental muscles, which is akin to what I said at the top of this little bit around the way we use tools. Some people are not replacing their mental muscles. Some people are using muscles that they didn't know they had, or muscles that they don't have, but they think they have. So in the way that they use the AI elements of it.
Are we just immune to this because we're human factors practitioners? Like, is that like we're aware of the pitfalls here?
I don't think we're immune to it at all. I mean, again, my Amanda and I, my wife and I, we talk about this on a regular basis because, and I think this is quite healthy. I think she's very, she's not anti-AI. She's worked in the AI field for a very long time. She's she played with neural networks when they were still cool. But I would say she's AI skeptical. That she thinks that we need to be taking the work we do with AI with a massive bucket full of salt. Whereas I'm quite pro. I see it as a tool that we should be experimenting with, learning about, understand the limits of it. And I think between the two of us, we're about right. But I think it's very easy to, depending on what your motivations are, depending on the environment you're working in, I think you can probably go too pro, or you can go too skeptical. So I don't think we're pro to. We're probably more in a front seat position to understand the effects. So we recognize, and it's very much front and center, that these effects are going to exist, and we have to really understand how we distribute tasks, what the effects can be, how humans interact with stuff. Especially we're in this vein at the moment of we expect a car to be driving along, and suddenly it does something wrong and goes, nope, I'm not in AI mode anymore, it's over to you. And as the driver, you've got to pick up and drive this thing with milliseconds of notice, and then wonder why you crash. So there is, and even in the human factors domain, we have a range of very significant speakers, very significant people within the field. Some who are so anti-AI, it worries me. But other people who are so pro AI, it worries me. So yeah, I don't think we're immune to it. But I think we do have a front row seat into the impacts.
Front row tickets to the end of the world. All right. Any other closing thoughts on this one?
I think I would sort of sum it up in this way, that it's about how we understand the new toolkit. And there are going to be some people who don't want to use the toolkit, but we need to.
Yeah, agree. Okay, well, thank you to our friends over at Futurism for our news stories this week. If you want to follow along, we do post the links to the original articles in our Discord, where you can join us for more discussion on these stories and much more. We do post those as we find them, so you'll notice when these posts were timestamped, and then you can count back to how far before the episode that was, and you can know that we did a good job. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to see what's going on in aviation. Yeah, this week in aerospace. We'll be right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Yes, huge thank you as always to our patrons. We especially thank you because you keep the lights on. You make the cool lights in the background happen. You make the lab happen. You make the platform happen. You make it happen. You make this whole thing happen. So thank you so much for everything that you do for us, for your financial contributions. And if you want to be a patron, you can do that. Human Factors, patreon.com/Human Factors Cast. I mentioned it before, but we have a brand new segment as of last time called This Week in Aerospace. So we're going to take it away to our friends over from the HFES Aerospace Systems Technical Group, Phil and Elena. Over to you. What's the latest in aerospace?
This is Elena Phil from Aerospace System Group at HFES. So after our last recording, we started talking about the overhaul of the US air traffic system and all the changes happening right now. And it was just so fascinating. So today, we focus our discussion to bring listeners up to speed on air traffic management.
On January 11, 2023, all U.S. flights were grounded or delayed nationwide for close to 2 hours. It was the first time since 9/11 that the FAA issued a nationwide ground stop in the country. What happened? During a scheduled maintenance of the computers running Notice to Airmen system, or NOTAM, one employee mistakenly replaced one file with another, corrupting the database. This led to the outage of the NOTAM system, which provides advisories to all aircraft pilots about potential hazard along their routes and airports. With the NOTAM system down, the FAA grounded all flights to ensure safety.
It's so surprising that moving one file can disrupt the entire air traffic system. It took close to 2 hours to fix the error. And from a human factor standpoint, if a file location is that important, shouldn't the system be designed so that this type of user action is not allowed? That is something to consider.
Then in May of 2025, the Denver En route center suffered a 90-second communication and radar blackout. Now, to be clear, aircraft continued flying their assigned route during that time, but ATC could not reach pilot to give them new clearance. Similar blackouts occurred days before at Newark Airport. The blackouts were the result of faulty radio transmitter that failed one after the other, primary and the backups. During the Denver incident, controller used a guard line that is usually used for distress call and reached one aircraft to inform them about the loss of communication at the center. That pilot then broadcasted to the other aircraft, instructing them to change radio frequency to reach an operating center.
Wow, I was not aware of how it unfolded. So, to better understand the problem, can you tell me what the current state of ATC in the country is?
All right, so I want to be clear, air traffic management is safe and working in the country. No doubt about that. And everyone is committed to safety, that is controller, pilots, airline, etc. But ATC is facing two issues. One is infrastructure, and the other is workload. About infrastructure, following the NOTAM outage, the FAA was tasked to conduct a risk assessment to evaluate the sustainability of all ATC systems. For example, NOTAM is such a system, such as electronic flight strips or weather information. The report was released in September of 2024 by the Government Accountability Office. Its title was unequivocal. FAA actions are urgently needed to modernize aging systems. I remember the report vividly because I had just started the HFES newsletter for aerospace at the time, and it was one of the first news that I covered, and I was shocked by what I've learned. Out of the 138 systems surveyed, they identified that 76% of them are unsustainable or potentially unsustainable, meaning that they have outdated functionality, a lack of spare parts, or if an update is available, there is no funding to support its acquisition. What is more concerning is that 58 of those systems are considered to have critical operation impacts on the safety and efficiency of the airspace if they were to fail. This is what happened with the NOTAM system that we talked about earlier.
And from my understanding, this situation has gone on for a while, and the FAA is aware of it. Their problem is with funding. Over the past 15 years, the FAA's budget for ATC infrastructure has remained essentially flat at approximately $3 billion per year, meaning they were unable to upgrade equipment across the country. You can look at the FAA's report. They share pictures of their work environment using fans to cool an old radar system, using aluminum foil and wrapping it around ribbon cables to reduce interference. Some systems even use floppy disks to share files between computers running on Windows 95.
I mean, when your operation rely on using floppy disks in Windows 95, that's a sign of an unsustainable system. Now, for people watching online, or if you go over the YouTube channel, we'll present pictures taken from the report for you to see. So clearly, there's an infrastructure deficit. But what about air traffic controllers? I would imagine that working in such an environment must be a challenge for them.
You're on the right track. ATC workforce is facing significant strain due to staffing shortages, high workload, and demanding work schedules. There were just over 14,000 controllers in 2024, but close to 7,000 of them are expected to depart by 2028. That's half of the controllers within 4 years. To mitigate this, the FAA plans to hire 9,000 new controllers by 2028, offering incentives such as educational support and a 5,000 graduation bonus. Although the FAA has expanded training beyond Oklahoma City to additional centers, including Emerson-Riddle, training remains highly demanding with a 26% dropout rate. This underscores ongoing human factors challenges related to fatigue, training burden, and workforce sustainability.
All right, so let's circle back to the ATC overhaul that is happening. So in May of last year, the US government announced that it will replace the air traffic control system. Their program is called Brand New Air Traffic Control System, or BNACS. It has a budget of $12.5 billion and 3 years to make major changes. It will replace copper analog cables to bring in fiber optics and high-speed internet connection. It will replace radio for voice over IP to prevent issues reported previously. And it will also install ground surveillance radars at more than 200 airports. It's a very ambitious program and will need to move at a fast pace. And this is only the first part, as Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, has already announced that ATC modernization will need an additional $20 billion to complete the work. So this is the first part, is to show to Congress that they can deliver before asking for the next 20 billion.
So actually, I read that Peraton was named the prime sister integrator for this modernization effort, but I've never heard of them before. Who are they?
Well, it's totally normal that you've never heard of them before because Peraton came into existence less than 10 years ago. So in 2017, Veritas Capital, an investment firm based in New York, bought Harris Government IT Service Division and renamed this Peraton. At the time, Harris was also responsible for ATC IT infrastructure, but that division, the one for ATC, was not sold to Peraton. Peraton has continued growing by acquiring other business units in the areas including space, intelligence, cyber, and defense.
Wow, sounds like a fast-growing business. What else have they done so far?
All right, so for what we know, Peraton was not involved in previous projects related to ATC. Their role as prime system integrator of BNACS is to steer the entire acquisition program and to allocate contracts to supplier. One of the first major announcements they made is the replacement of over 600 ground-based radars. Collins was awarded over $400 million to install two types of radars. The Condor MK3, which is a cooperative surveillance radar, meaning that it uses aircraft transponders to locate its position on ground. For aircraft without transponder, they also installed the ASR-XM, a non-cooperative radar that detects aircraft using reflected signals. Intergroup USA received close to $250 million to install 46,000 new radios. So things are already moving. The FAA announced that their contract with Peraton will be made available on sam.gov website. I've not seen it yet, but we'll keep you posted when it becomes public.
All right. So thank you for everything. Today we explored the current state of U.S. air traffic control, from recent system outages to broader challenges posed by aging infrastructure and workforce strain. That reminds me of something that Adam Larry, a fellow human factors professional, said following the announcement of ATC modernization. Beyond installing new equipment and infrastructure, we also need to consider the training for the new equipment and how it will change operations on both sides, so ATC and the pilots, and how ATC modernization is really a system-wide change, and it's an exciting time to observe its development. That is all we have for today. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I ended it just a little bit early. I'm sorry. They always look so sharp. I feel like we're here in hoodies. They're like fully dressed up in makeup, and I'm like, we need to step up our game here, Barry.
We need to obviously get on with our makeup game.
Makeup and they have the overlays and everything. They go full out. Like, what are we doing here? They're putting us to shame. All right. Well, thank you, Phil. Thank you, Elena, for the coverage of This Week in Aerospace. Really appreciate it, as always. If you love the coverage of This Week in Aerospace, let us know. We want to hear that. But right now, it's time for part of the show that needs no introduction. So it's time for It Came From. Barry, what is your One More Thing. What am I? Did I mess it up? I messed it up. Now it's time for one more thing. What's your one more thing this week?
So my one more thing this week, I had a meeting today with the first Minister of Wales, who's effectively the Prime Minister of Wales within the UK, and she was great. She said hello. So, what is it you do? So, we do human factors. And what is that? So we had this thing about where you have to explain in a single sentence to a politician. Ellen N. Morgan is not a unintelligent person or anything like that. So you're trying to explain to an intelligent person, but they've got very, very limited time. And you've got to try and get this concept over to them really, really quickly. Now, I find we have many, many conferences that still can't describe human factors in a pithy sentence. So how was I going to do that in about 10 seconds? And so I and Amanda give it a good valiant go. And she turned around and said, so it's a bit like ergonomics then? I'm like, yeah, broader, sort of. And then she went on to the next person. So it was an interesting exercise that I struggle with explaining what we do at the best of times. But to try and explain it to the First Minister of Wales in a pithy sentence in a way that she could grasp before going on to the next person was a particular challenge I did not enjoy. And we were then trying to discuss it on the way home from this event to try and work out how can you do human factors in a one-liner that appeals to a politician. So we're still working on that one. But it was a fantastic experience to meet her today and introduce her to the world of human factors.
The go-to I always go to, if I have to do like a one-liner, I always go to, it's designing for a human for their task given the context that they perform that task in.
Yeah.
Not all encompassing, but it does enough to get it across.
We saw a similar thing around fitting the task to the human rather than the human to the task. But then I did throw some rather spicy examples that were very relevant to the rest of the audience that was there. That if somebody else had heard me, I could have got into a bit of trouble. But anyway, no, it was a fun exercise. What about you, Nick? What's your one more thing?
Well, you had mentioned vibe coding a few weeks back, and I thought, oh, you know what? I should probably try to do that. I had tried like way early on when AI was just a brand new thing, and it was not anywhere where it needed to be then, especially for somebody like me who's familiar-ish with coding, but is not my strength. Like I'm not don't have a background in coding. Like I know how to print hello world, maybe is how I could put my coding skills, right? Um So, what I've been doing is I've been working on a tool to help with some of the human factors news that we get. So, it's no secret that the way that we conduct our news search is across a variety of different sources. We try to mention them on every show that we do. You can imagine that there's a lot of noise in the signal that comes through. And so, what we're trying to do is trying to find the needles in the haystack that are pop culture ish related stories to human factors. Those are good ones to talk about on the show. Other types of stories that are would have sort of the mass appeal. Those are the types of stories that we try to pick for the show. Not only to make it interesting to talk about, but interesting to listen to. So, with all that being said, I've started vibe coding a human factors news triage tool that looks through multiple RSS feeds and will use a locally installed LLM to start rating and sorting the relevance of each of these individual items. Uh, as it relates to human factors, and it'll come back with a score, and then I can filter based on the score. I can filter based on how far back I want the dates to go. And it will tell me, a summary of how it relates to human factors. So that way I don't have to think super hard about it as I'm trying to find these needles in the haystack. It's again meant as sort of a cursory glance. So that way I don't have to go through headline by headline and go, oh, that's human factors. Can I read it? Oh, nope, that's actually not human factors. Go back to the list. It's actually meant to be just a short list of things that I look through. Long time listeners of the show know that I used to put together a human factors news roundup every week, every month. That got to be so tedious that for my own mental health, I had to step away from it. So, this is trying to get back at least trying to find a tool that will help with some of that. So it's in an okay state. I need to do some further testing and validation of it, but it's interesting. And now I can talk about my own vibrance. Yeah, that's what I got going on. Oh, and new Star Wars trailer. Excited. Yay.
Oh,
yeah.
We've got Project coming out soon. I'm quite excited. So anyway.
Oh yeah. Lots of fun stuff. Let's talk about that in the post show. That's it for today, everyone. If you like this episode, enjoy some of the discussion about AI, I'll encourage you to go listen to any of about last week's episode. We talked about AI there. Go do that. Comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the story this week. For more in-depth discussion, you can always join us on our Discord community. Despite your feelings on Discord, we're aware, we're tracking. We might find a new home. Who knows? Anyway, we're there for now. Visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest human factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a few things you can do. One, you can leave us a 5-star review wherever you're watching or listening right now. That's free for you to do, and it really helps us out. Two, something that helps us out more than that is telling your friends about the show and tell them that you like us, because your friends will trust your judgment over a anonymous review. And three, if you have financial means to and want to support the show, you can always support us on Patreon. Everything that you support goes right back into the show. I don't pocket any of it, although Barry skimmed off something a lot one time to buy a car. I still haven't got that money back, Barry. Give it back. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. Mr. Barry Kirby, thank you for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk to you about AI taking their job.
Well, AI is already taking your job, so there's pointless come talk to me now. But no, you can always come talk to me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram if you want to see some recent pottery failures. But if you want to come and listen to the newly revitalized podcast where I chat to individuals in the human factors domain around their expertise and experiences, then find me on 1202 The Human Factors Podcast, which is 1202pod.com.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Rome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Rome. If you're watching live, stay tuned for the post show. For the rest of you, thanks again for tuning in to Human Factors Cast. Until next time,
It
depends. I swear I was ready for it. I pressed it.
So, in some ways, it was a shame that we couldn't get Neil, because we didn't know what we were doing and all that sort of stuff. Neil's things would have been crowbarred really nicely into the episode, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I might spice it in.
Yeah, no, I think if it's not too much, I think it's definitely worth considering because it fit into that into all of that really well. So
a little whoosh sound effect and then throw it in there. Yeah. Although there's music behind it, so I'd have to isolate the track and then do all that fun stuff. So we'll see.
I think you could say, we spoke to somebody in the pre-show, but it's, we spoke to Neil in the pre-show, but we thought it was worth bringing into the main show. I'm sure people would be forgiving. So, and just to keep it as simple as possible. But yes, exciting news that Project Hail Mary is about a month away from being released. I'm very excited about that. It's going to be great. It's not often I get excited about films as such. I'm not a big cinema goer in the grand scheme of things, but I'm excited but nervous because I think the book is a great book, and I think the ability to mess this up. It's a bit like when Top Gun 2 came out. I didn't ever want to watch Top Gun 2 because I thought it was going to be terrible. But it isn't. It's brilliant. So I'm hoping and praying.
Do they have early reviews yet?
I haven't seen them. I've seen some commentary on the trailers. But that's about it. So yeah, we will see.
Early, I have one here from the Synesthetic.
Okay.
Early word on Project Hail Mary is calling it a masterpiece.
Is that a double bluff though?
I don't know.
I mean, it should. I mean, from the trailers I've seen, I know. Yeah, we've spoken about this before. But it's. I thought initially it would have been done in the same way as they did The Martian, because obviously Sam Martin and all that. But obviously it's different. It is a director and all that sort of stuff. But it should be good. There's got to be my one slight annoyance with the trailers, which they kind of had to do. It's a bit Sixth Sense-y to a certain extent, where there's a little, certainly if you read in the book for the first time, you didn't have any knowledge of it. There's a bit of a twist. It's not a twist, but it's a bit of an out of blue thing you're not expecting, which they've kind of given away a bit in the trailers. But I think they have to in order to get the hooks in there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
I saw a very similar sentiment as like, oh, they gave away this thing, and then since then I haven't watched any trailers. I think I might know what it is, but I don't want to say in case anyone hasn't seen the trailers or anything. Is it? Hang on, I'll type it to you and you can confirm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that they do with that they haven't given away, and it'll be interesting because obviously, a bit like The Martian, if you've read the book and seen the film, you know that they haven't covered whole chunks of detail that are in the book because they just can't. It's just one of those things, and so it'd be interesting to see which bits of detail they pick on out of the book in order to make into the film. And so I hope it's good because I think it's got me into basically Andy Weir's writing has got me into a whole new genre really of reading. So I love reading. I used to read a lot, and then I kind of found I didn't have the time for reading anymore with day job and numerous responsibilities. And then I'm like, no, I need to make time to do this. But since reading Andy Weir's stuff, and it sort of made me realize I do like sci-fi, but I didn't like all sci-fi. And then I was chatting to some people like, oh, you clearly like hard sci-fi. You like the descriptive elements. You like the science to be believable, or at least based in an element of realism. You don't just like the made up, completely made up nonsense. You like a bit of that, and so it should be. It should be at least, almost. Some would argue Star Trek versus Star Wars. And so I'm more of a Trekkie. So going down that sort of route, I've now found a whole new bunch of books that I'm like, actually, they're good reading. So yeah, but I do think Andy Weir is the master of it at the moment.
Do you use Storygraph at all?
No, not heard of that. What's that?
So Storygraph is it's an app that you can use to break down your reading. So it tracks things like your pace. It tracks things like the different moods that are present in a book. It tracks how, for me personally, I listen to audiobooks, and so it tracks like how long the audiobooks that I listen to are. Whether it's fiction or nonfiction, the format, all that stuff. And it comes up with some nice, neat graphs for you about like how you've rated books in the past. I just started earlier this year. So if you want to know the type of books that I'm reading, which is hilarious because they're very different from my wife's like books. So when you look at hers, it's very much like, horror, suspense, thriller, mystery, right? Like those. And you look at mine and it's like adventurous, lighthearted, inspiring, informative, emotional, challenging.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the beauty of reading is you can either go heavy into what you like and therefore go more in depth and for that, or you can go do things completely different and it can be a complete break. So yeah, I think it's when we talk about technology and things like that, and maybe we should probably do an episode on this around mobile phone addiction and this idea of like you're sat there, just scrolling, sort of doom scrolling and all that sort of stuff, where even I sometimes find it hard to put the phone down, pick up my book. Pick up my Kindle. To actually do that and sort of stop myself from picking up my phone because I'm after that that fix of scrolling and so are we losing that drive to read even though love reading? Are we losing that because we want that addiction that addiction appeasing piece of the scrolling the phone? So yeah, I think it's interesting.
I've started pairing my my audiobook listening with walks and like walks on the treadmill.
Oh, cool.
Okay. And the way I tend to think about it is like, I look forward to listening to the book. I don't look forward to walking on the treadmill, but I have to get some movement in. And so, for me, it's like, okay, well, I have something to look forward to at least. And so I'm trying to just do enjoyable stuff on the treadmill. So when I listen to books, I'm only listening to my Star Wars books. I'm trying not to pair it with like, when I first was walking on the treadmill, I'd pair it with like Udemy learning and stuff. And I was like, this feels a little too technical for me just walking on a treadmill, and I did music and then you get bored of the playlist. And then, books are nice. Audiobooks are nice because you just walk and listen. And it's good stuff.
Interesting with audiobooks now. So I normally use audiobooks when driving. And it's funny because I don't know whether I've mentioned this before, but I sort of I used to be really into sort of Tom Clancy books and particularly the Jack Ryan series. And I thought I'd read them all the way, but I must have got to a certain point and then stopped reading them because I've picked up some of the later bits which I'm now just listening to in audiobook form when I'm doing long commutes. And I'm thinking I recognize bits of the story, but I don't recognize huge swathes of it. And I should do, because I've read them all. So why haven't I done this? So I think I got to that bit where I hadn't read them, and or I've dipped into them, or maybe I've only read them once, type thing, and I only remember certain bits. So yeah, I'm actually in a pleasant situation where I'm reading or listening to the audiobook as if it's like basically the first time I've read the book. So that's yeah, it's been quite good fun. Going back to Project Hail Mary, if you listen to the audiobook as opposed to the written book, it's got some bits of genius in there with the way they've done the audiobook as well.
Yeah, that's what you were saying last week, I think.
Yeah.
It's fascinating though, the way that you're talking about it. I wonder if you're listening to an abridged version.
No, I'm not. It's actually it is unabridged because it's so long.
Okay.
But yeah, it's interesting. But I think it's just, if I have read it, it's so long ago. So I've willfully forgotten it.
I have to mention this with the mention of abridged. There was oh god, it was back before Disney bought Star Wars. Aging myself here, early 2000s. I was listening to an audiobook, Star Wars audiobook, and then it was abridged. And one of the things that happened in that, is a very consequential chapter or two that they like left out. And
Right.
so like fans were very upset about this particular book and how they left out this particular thing. And it's a abridged version. And so since the acquisition, they have not done an abridged version that I know of. I mean, they'll do versions of like choose your own adventure books and read the canonical story and leave out everything else, but that's about it. And that's really it's like hard to do choose your own adventure on audio format anyway, because like you choose the chapter, you're not just you can't always do that when you're listening. So to me, something like that makes sense. But anyway, I'm glad none of my stories are abridged.
Yes, it is interesting. I mean, another discussion I was having the other day is, if I'm listening to an audiobook, is that reading? Which I think is quite interesting.
Yes, hands down, yes.
And I don't care either way. I think if you're consuming the content and basically putting yourself into that other world or whatever it is, it almost doesn't matter. But then there are purists who say, no, you have to be reading the word to do that. I'm like, possibly.
No, here, I'll give you two arguments that will silence the haters. And if you're a hater, go in the comments. Let me know. I'm here. Let's duke this out. Because yes, audiobooks is reading. Here's example one. You read a book and I listen to a book. We go to a book club and we can both discuss the book in detail. We can both discuss what happened in the story. One might argue that I might have more notes because I'm writing down or listen, while I'm listening, and you're reading and you can't write down while you're reading. You have to pause. And then, so I think it's the same from that perspective. Another argument you could use is like, for those who are vision impaired, are you going to say that you haven't watched a movie because you listened to the audio description of what's happening? Are you going to say that? Like, you haven't seen this movie? Yeah, but I listened to it. Like, are you really going to say that to somebody who's visually impaired? Like, if so, stop. You're a snob. Like, I'm sorry, but that's snobby. And like, to me, it's the same argument. Like, we can still talk about the thing.
One of the things I like about audiobooks, because I do read quickly, and so I can get through quite a serious chunky book in quite a short period of time. But I know with some of that, I am speed reading some of it. So I don't necessarily, I can easily miss some nuances or whatever, and I sometimes catch myself and I'm like, I have to go back and read it again. With an audiobook, you're not reading at your pace, you're reading at their pace. And so it takes a lot longer, but you do absorb everything, if that makes sense.
You can change the pace. I listen to mine at 2 times speed.
We've spoken about this before. I think that's getting away from the artistry of the thing. Sometimes I have done it where I'll go, if I'm going to a particular, if I'm in a particularly interesting chapter, I know if I can time it right with my destination to get through the chapter, that I might put it up to 1.25.
Whoa,
But
spicy.
I know, push it out there. But only in special circumstances. No, I'm very much of a one times listener, I think. I mean, maybe so. Like, I'd probably do more. I could do faster with books, but if I'm listening to podcasts and things like that, I'm definitely a one times listener, because I think it's a performance as much as as an information dump.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I didn't get to just 2 times speed right away. I worked my way up. I started at 1.1, 1.25, 1.4, 1.5. You know, like I scooted my way up there.
Yeah. But and again, this is what I like about the ability with what you can do with modern media, because you can make it work for you. Because some people do like 2 times speed because their commute is half an hour and they listen to hour-long podcasts. So out of necessity, it works for them absolutely brilliantly. I like the fact that you can adapt the same media to suit what you're doing, to suit your needs, to make it fit with what you do, so you do consume it in a way that suits you. I think it's brilliant. Though I do listen to some of the people who do slow it down as well, and I think that's odd. But anyway, the same argument.
I mean, that could be a processing thing. For me, my mind wanders when it's too slow, but for others, they might not be able to, process it orally when it's coming through, and they might need to slow it. Yes. Hey, accessibility settings for help everybody, right?
That's true. I mean, it's another interesting nuance with the younger generation, shall we say, is I now see a lot of, in fact, so my own children do it. They can't watch a film without the subtitles, or they don't like watching a film without the subtitles on, because it has to process what's going on.
Yeah,
like, cool. As long as they don't do that when I'm watching it, because I don't like them with subtitles. I find I'm reading the subtitles rather than I'm watching the film. But again, it's whatever, you do you. And that's one of the cool things about personal screens, is you can set things up to be exactly what you want them to be.
To your own thing. Well, on that note, I think we're done for the night. Wow, what a fun episode. What a fun time. And hopefully, I feel like now my nose can be stuffy again. My throat can hurt again. I can go back to resting. Of course, after I get this episode up and ready to go. Wink, wink, maybe. I don't know. The post on this one might take a little minute, but just you're here. If you're watching this live, thank you. Really appreciate your attention to this detail, this attendance. I see the numbers. Thanks. No, seriously, thank you for hanging out with us. Even if you haven't said anything in the chat, I see you. I see that you're here, and I appreciate you. All right. With that, we'll be back in just 2 weeks' time to talk about some other topic that hopefully won't be selected the day before and sent hastily in a message to Barry the morning of. Well, be back. Like, what is that? March 5th? Is that
like that?
Yeah. March 5th is an interesting date because it immediately follows the only date that is a command.
March 4th. Yeah, okay.
March 4th.
Yeah, exactly.
March 4th. Yeah. Hey, isn't that fun? All right, cool. Well, we'll see you right after that command day. In the meantime, if you want to come chat with us in Discord, please do. Until next time, bye, everybody. Bye. Anything else, Barry?
No, I'm good. Catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Are you tired of boring lectures and textbooks on human factors and UX? Well, grab your headphones and get ready for a wild ride with the Human Factors Minute podcast. Each minute is like a mini crash course packed with valuable insights and information on various organizations, conferences, usability methods, theories, models, certifications, tools, and much more. We'll take you on a journey through the fascinating world of human factors, from the ancient history to the latest trends and developments. Listen in as we explore the field and discover new ways to enhance the user experience. From the Think Aloud protocol to the critical incident technique, focus groups, iterative design, we'll make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. Tune in on the 10th, the 20th, and the last day of every month for a new and interesting tidbit related to human factors. Don't miss out on the Human Factors Minute podcast, your ultimate source for all things human factors.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our monthly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and access to the full library of Human Factors Minute, a weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.